Oh man, turn on the lights, man. Sometimes I don't know how to get ready for my own podcast. You would think 1 year into my podcast that I would know how to prepare logistically for a podcast. But here it is, 6 p.m. on March 25th, 2021, and I am still discombobulated frequently when 6 o'clock arrives. I do the best I can, the best I can, the best I can. Okay, back up. Okay. Hey, Mark, Becky, Chris, and Lisa. Welcome, Radine. I am not lazy. I am just, it's a lot of moving parts. Hi, Debbie. So let me explain something because I assume that the Radine comment, lazy, was directed at me. To do a podcast, um, here's what one must do. Good thinking, Chris. I, if you want, I'll meet you over there maybe if it's the right time of day. Um, what was I talking about? Okay, getting ready for a podcast. First off, let's just basic stuff. Some of you already know how this works. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube now or in the future, I am talking to people on Facebook. I don't mean to be rude to you on YouTube, but you're not interacting. You're not making comments. Over here, simultaneously, there are people making comments, and I'm zeroing in and reading them and reacting to them. So, no intention to ignore you. Feel free to comment away during the live show, and I'll respond live from New York City. Okay, so let's pretend it's 5:50. That means 10 minutes before 6 for some of you who don't keep track of time that way. At 5:50 or earlier, I sit down in this chair. Okay, now this chair is raggedy. Okay, it's that's all broken up. The other one's breaking up. The whole chair sucks. That's not the point. I'm just trying to lay it out for you. Okay. So I sit down and I have to look how many tabs do I have open. It's not uncommon to have 5 or more tabs open. I was working. Hi, Sean and Rachel. Welcome. So, and if I forgot to say hi to Ann when I said hi to Mark, I should say that. And Chris, say hi to Becky for me. So I sit down, okay, and okay, I just sat down. We're reenacting the scene of the crime. So uh, I look to see how many tabs are open because here's my concern: if you have too many tabs open, I think I'm going to slow down my transmission and I'm going to cause a log jam and I won't be able to podcast because I don't know crap about the internet. I don't know how this works. So I have this anxiety. Anyways, so I close all the tabs I can in anticipation of podcasting. But I don't want to close all the tabs because I'm working, not working because I don't work. I'm reading stuff. I'm not done reading it, and I don't want it to disappear before I finish it, right? So I leave some open. So now I got to figure out where do I do the podcast? Where do I open windows, 2 windows for my podcast? So and I open them separately because I have to, so I can put them side by side. Okay. So first I open up live podcasting with Facebook. Now I've already explained to you over the months that it requires a title and a description. And if you don't do a title and description, when you do go live, it's gonna hesitate and say, do you want to go with a title and description or do you want to skip that? That's uncomfortable. So I've learned to do this, okay? To put in the title and the description and links and whatever I'm gonna do. So I do that. I do that on Facebook. Now, while I'm sitting here on Facebook, I'm like, what kind of links do I want to put in tonight? I want to put in some music. Tonight's music could be a downer. I'll talk about that in a minute. So, oh wait, I just shut something out. Okay, so I'm sitting there, I'm doing my research, I'm putting in links, I'm thinking about how does this all feel? What can I do that's prefatory, prelude, precursor to, and feels like it's in sync with me, right? So, okay, so today I found some stuff I had to research because I had a theme in my head. All right, so I do that. I post them. Now, Live Producer Facebook is ready to go. I can see that my video is working. I can see that I've got my links, my title, my description. Now I open up a new window, got to be a simple window, not a tab, a window for uh, YouTube, my YouTube channel. I have to open that up, and then there's a link. You want to go live, you hit that. You got to set up. It takes you step by step. So it says is the title. You got to come up with the title. So I take the title from Live Producer and I put it over there, so they'll have the same title usually. And then it says, "Is this made for children?" Yeah, no. You have to mark whether it's made for children or not. You can't be doing inappropriate stuff and saying it's for children. So I click that, and then it takes my photograph. It says taking your photo thumbnail now. And so I freak out and I go, and it takes my picture and I look and I go, oh my God, that's horrible. Anyways, then I click something, save or something, and then it asks me, do I want to edit it? And I do. I want to take everything in Live Producer that I've set up, links and everything, and I want to put them in YouTube simultaneous so that everybody's seeing the same thing. I do that. Now, I look at the time. I've always got to have some kind of time, right? Okay, so I'm sitting here. I'm looking to see if everything looks right, and I'm watching the clock. Maybe I'm listening to some music, and all of a sudden it says go live, or I say go live. I don't know. And I turn it on, and I'm like, I can't see me. Oh, the lights aren't on. I forgot the lights today, or I forgot to comb my hair. I don't know. I'm just telling you that in order to live podcast nightly, it's almost overwhelming if you are somebody who's not operating with a fully digital deck. Okay. Having said all that and having killed 7 minutes, I'm ready to talk about tonight. Okay. I hope that everybody stuck around for a minute. Listen to what I want to say and then leave. Just do me a favor. If you're a friend of mine or you're a Facebook friend of mine and you've tuned in, I'm asking you, don't click away just yet. All right. So whether you listen to me or not on this, yeah, I do need a tech crew. All right. So here's what I was thinking. I want out of the United States of America. I want out of the United States of America, not temporarily, permanently. I'm not leaving though, because I'm 68 years old. I'm too old to pack it up, go somewhere else, and reestablish myself. I don't have that kind of energy. I don't have that kind of commitment. So why do I want to leave the United States? I want to make a statement. I haven't thought through how to make the statement, but I know what I want to say. And I'm hoping you stuck around to hear what I got to say, because the 3 songs I posted, the title is I'm Tired. Lord, I'm tired. And the first song is Desperation with the lyrics. I hope you'll look at it later, by Steppenwolf. And then Jesus Christ Superstar. There's the song where he's in the Garden of Gethsemane and he's going up and he's telling God, I've tried for 3 years, seems like 30, tell me why. Tell me why am I doing this, right? And it's a really powerful scene. I didn't know Jesus before that. I watched that scene and I'm like, wow, I thought it was a powerful scene. You may not have. And then the last link is Blind Faith. Can't find my way home, because that's the way I feel. So I've told you how the music came to be. Hi, Lane. So the music came to be out of really this internal sense of desperation that is intangible to a specific moment in time. It's the times. What happened today is Georgia just passed legislation, voter suppression legislation. The Republican legislature passed some of the most onerous legislation to really thwart a Democratic vote, up to and including saying that you can't bring water or snacks to give to people who have been standing in line a long time. I mean, amongst many other things, they're making it so difficult to vote. They don't care if Republicans don't vote because they can't win with Republican votes alone. They have to have Democrats stay home. They have to have Democrats thwarted in order for Georgia to remain red. Okay? So, what scripture was that from? Did I say something scriptural? I'm so confused. I'm just doing stream of consciousness. Sean asked me what scripture that was from, and I don't even know. Anyways, back to what I'm saying. So Georgia is only one of, I think I heard 18 states actively working today to suppress the vote of people of color, of senior citizens, um, anything that tends to lean towards Democrats. Um, and so I can't even, I can't address that, Joan. I know that's a cute thing. They supply those new rules to gun purchasers. This is a meme going around, very similar that Joan is that you should only be able to buy a gun once every 2 years while standing in a 3-hour line. Essentially, what happens when you try to go vote for president or for your senator or federal offices, and so guns all another deal, and we'll get to that. Right now, I'm talking about a freaking effort, and make no mistake what this means to the United States of America, that this can take place in 2021. Make no mistake about it. The consequences are severe. It's an attempt to keep the Trump-like era alive. It is dangerous. It's not just mean-spirited. It's dangerous. If they can obliterate the Democratic vote, if they can continue to stymie the Senate, if they can continue to stop any sort of progressive agenda at their leisure, you're screwed, people. If you're a Democrat, you're a liberal, you're a person of color, you're a gay person, you're a woman, you're fucked. So make no mistake about this and how dangerous it is. And it's not just Georgia. In fact, historically, Georgia leads the voter suppression behavior for other states. Texas is putting together and passing some of the most onerous voter suppression effort in the history of the United States. They got rid of the Voter Rights Act as a preliminary to doing this. The Voters' Rights Act was to assure that this couldn't be done. Well, they got it done. They got the Voters' Rights Act. It's over. And now it's kind of like a free for all. And there are enough Republican states with enough Republican legislatures that they will succeed. Whether the courts ultimately permit this, I can't tell you. I mean, the courts got packed in the last 4 years with Trump nominees, candidates, appointments. Okay? So the concern would be, hell yeah, the courts are going to let them get away with this. All right? Meantime, okay, you got that going on. In the Senate, we continue to see a president and a vice president act as if they have any control over the U.S. agenda, and they don't. And there's this whole thing that I keep seeing on social media about what are the Democrats going to do about this? What are the Democrats going to do about that? What are they going to do about gun control? Here's what the Democrats are going to do about gun control. Not a freaking thing. Not because they don't want to, because they don't have the votes. They don't even have Joe Manchin, a Democrat from West Virginia, who's willing to sign off on universal background check. So don't talk gun control as if it's seriously under consideration. It isn't. You can't do it with Democrats alone. What Biden will do is ultimately he will utilize executive orders, which are paper thin, and he will do something like Clinton did. And eventually, when he's not in office, or when the Congress gets together and does something different, your paper thin regulations created by executive order will evaporate. Just like so many of the executive orders that Trump did are now being undone. Thus, will the next Republican undo anything? Because it's not legislation, it's executive order. To create legislation in the United States of America now, you need 60 votes. And the Democrats don't have anything close to 60 votes. So there's this illusion of authority, there's this illusion of power and control, and it doesn't exist, people. You must be aware of that. You can't be crazy enough. You're not getting gun control. You're not even getting something that resembles a gun regulation. You're not going to get universal background checks. You might get them in a Democratic state where they're going to say, like in Illinois, you can't sell a gun, or California, you can't just sell a gun to anybody you want to, okay? You can't, in California, if I want to sell to my neighbor, I'm going to be regulated. In Texas, if I want to sell to my neighbor, the one regulation is I gotta have a reasonable. I got to know they're not a convicted felon. I have handled. No, you don't need a FOID card in Texas. All you need is a state issued ID to buy a gun, Debbie. Okay, so here you go. Okay, so my next door neighbor. What? No, let me use an actual case. Okay. I may have talked about this case before. Federal court, I am retained to represent a 21-year-old Mexican-American lad. Bright kid, nice kid, aspirations to be a border patrol agent. I mean, he's working on that. He's big, he's strapping, and no doubt in my mind, he could have made it. He's bilingual. His family's very nice. His mother retains me. Okay, here's the facts. Please pay attention. He applies for and receives a federal firearms license. What this allows him to do, and I've had them, okay, it allows him to buy firearms from a distributor and sell them to a consumer. But each acquisition must be recorded in compliance with federal regulations. So the moment he receives a firearm from the distributor, he has to open up what's called his book. And he has to write down in the book where this gun came from. He has to write down the serial number and a description of the gun. So Glock 9mm model 40. I made all that up, okay? That goes in the book. There's another line where it went. That's not filled out yet. We're just taking the gun in. Now it's in my inventory, okay? Somebody wants to buy that gun. It doesn't matter who wants to buy that gun. It doesn't matter where they want to buy the gun. If I'm not in my store, but I want to sell to my next door neighbor, I can, but he still has to follow federal regulations in order to purchase a gun from me. Federal regulations, which are required by the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearm Department, and I must comply. My failure to comply will be charged as a felony. So now you know where I'm going with this kid, right? He gets an FFL. So he hasn't done anything. He doesn't have a store. He doesn't. It's just got an FFL. He applied for it and he got it. It's not that hard to apply for. You have to just not have criminal history. You have to clear the background check, and you have to say that you're going to keep, store, and sell the guns in a location that the municipality permits. Your municipality cannot prohibit commercial enterprise, so you can't use your home unless your home is okay. Well, his family had a business, and he used that business address. There was no problem with that. His parents owned a car lot. It would have been a perfectly acceptable place to put a safe in, store guns, and occasionally sell some. He had two friends at the karate dojo, okay? that he had met and they were working out and they were going out for beers after the karate dojo, after karate workout. And they became pals. And one day they say to him, there's a gun show in Mesquite, Texas. And there was. And why don't you go with us? Because we don't want to have to wait to buy a gun. And if you have an FFL, if you're a federal firearm license holder, you don't wait for a gun. That's good as gold, man, when it comes to buying a gun. Okay. He said, oh, okay, I'll go with you. So they buy some guns. Not a lot of guns. I mean, they didn't buy an arsenal. They bought, maybe 3 guns. And when they're done at the gun show, they went home to I think his house. It doesn't really matter. Anyways, he hasn't set up yet. He doesn't have his logbook yet. He doesn't have his safe yet. So he says stupidly, go ahead and take the guns and we'll do the paperwork later. We'll fill out the 4473 later. Okay. Violation number 1. Didn't fill out the 4473 first. 2. Hasn't run any kind of background check on them, and they don't have any ID that authorizes them to purchase a firearm without a background check. He hasn't recorded the incoming or the outcoming. He's got nothing. This is a criminal violation he's just committed. How does he get caught? Because people do this kind of crap by. People buy and sell guns that shouldn't. I'm talking to the United States deputy attorney, what do they call him, assistant U.S. attorney, who's handling the case. And here's what happens. He's charged with selling to a felon. One of the 3 young men in this group, one of his 2 friends, had been convicted of a felony before he ever met him. And this kid had never told them. They're men, young men. Had never told him he had a felony conviction, and thus, by law, was precluded from buying a gun from this kid who's got an FFL and is now vulnerable to federal charges, and in fact is charged with a federal charge. Okay, so I get the case and I say to the U.S. attorney, I say, this crap goes on all the time at these gun shows. I know this because I own the DFW gun range. I know more about guns than the U.S. attorney or this kid. How you do this? Oh, because the other kid, not the one who had been convicted of a felony already, was already under investigation by the FBI, unbeknownst to him or to my client. He was under investigation for a homicide that had took place across the country in Pennsylvania a year before. So they're tracking him, and anybody who comes into his orbit gets investigated. My kid gets busted. You aren't going to, there is a regulations, they're in place. But in the state of Texas, this unfolds in part because all they had to do was ignore these federal regulations. There's nobody standing over them. By the way, I kept a log. I had a business. You can screw up. I handled a lot of guns coming and going. I had a lot of customers. I was missing some guns when I got audited, and I was threatened with felony charges. I'm a grown man. I'm a lawyer, and I had a thoroughly up above board business, but they weren't playing. ATF came in and said, here, we just did an audit. They spent over a week in my place, looked at every form that had been filled out, every 4473. They made sure that every box that needs to be marked was marked. I'll give you an idea. Are you a fugitive from justice? Yes or no? For instance, if my customer didn't check no, and he didn't check yes, he didn't check anything, and I didn't catch it, I just violated federal law. The assumption under federal law is, or federal regulations is, in the absence of an answer that he wasn't a negative, the assumption was he was a fugitive from justice, and I am liable for selling the firearm, right? That's what happens when you're an FFL holder and you're responsible for buying and selling guns. Now, the rest of the world has just been buying and selling guns with their buddies. They were buying and selling them on Facebook before they shut it down. They were buying and selling them on Craigslist at one time, and they're buying and selling them word of mouth. You could put a sign up at Kroger today and say, looking to sell my AR-15, call this number. Somebody calls you and says, I want to buy your AR-15. I can meet him in the basement of a garage, take his money, and hand him. There is no requirement at the secondary market. I'm not an FFL holder. I'm selling my personal gun. Now, by the way, if I'm an FFL holder, there is no such thing as selling your personal gun. Okay, if I own my own guns, I mean, literally, I bought them for me. But I have an FFL. No, man, better run a background check. Any gun you sell. But forget I'm an FFL. I'm not. I'm selling. I'm in the basement of a garage, man. Ain't nobody. I hand this guy an AR-15. He hands me the money. He goes his way. I go my way. I could ask him for ID. That would be smart. That would be prudent. But I'm not aware of a rule in Texas that requires that I have his ID or take a picture of his ID or anything, right? He walks away. Now, if he got out of his car and I'm standing with my AR-15, he says, you know, I'm a convicted felon, and I give him the gun, I have broken federal law. Okay. Another thing I can't do under federal law, and this goes even to the private consumer, can't sell across state lines. You can transfer possession of ownership to a family member, somebody in that regard, but I can't, you know, if somebody in Tucson, Arizona contacts me and says, hey, man, I heard you're selling an AR-15, you know, I'll send you a check. Would you send me the gun? Oh, hell no. No, I'm not. No, not committing federal violations. So I don't know where I started, but I'll just keep going where I'm going. I am reaching a point in my life where, you know, for a moment, I glimpsed sunshine. I saw Trump was defeated. Okay. I felt good for 5 minutes. But the events that are unfolding, the crisis at the border, yes, there is a crisis at the border. Whether Biden created the crisis or the crisis was going to happen in March anyways, because it does every March when these kids come up. That I can't tell you, but it's a crisis when you've got 15,000 minors who are unaccompanied, who came into the United States, who are being held in various locations, some locations that suck really bad, some locations that are habitable, but you've still got to figure out what to do with these kids. You got a crisis. We're not set up to process 15,000 kids. We don't have the capability to take care of the border right now with what has suddenly happened. So you've adjusted and changed your position. Well, Elaine, that's interesting. If you're talking about gun control, I've been in favor of universal background checks for a long time, i.e., I have advocated, even as a gun owner, as the owner of DFW gun range, that every sale of a firearm should be conducted with a universal background check. Here's how it affected me as a dealer. Dallas area, where my gun range was located, about 2 miles away was the Dallas Market Hall, and every 3 months they had a gun show, a big gun show. In between those 3 months, Mesquite, which was about 20 miles away, had a gun show every month or two. Fort Worth, Irving, all, kind of in this metroplex area, had gun shows where people would go to buy and sell guns. What profoundly affected me, I didn't like the gun shows because they don't have overhead. A lot of the guys that do gun shows, they may be an FFL dealer, they don't have a store, so they store their firearms responsibly in between gun shows. Then they buy 15 tables at a gun show. Maybe it's $50 table, whatever it is, I don't remember. And then they would bring in all the guns they had, they put them out. They'd hire people and they'd sit there and sell guns, and they would conduct background checks. They had their phones, they had their 4473s ready to be filled out, and they'd undercut my price. I couldn't sell guns at a reasonable markup. I had to sell guns at almost a loss, but it was kind of a loss leader. Come in, buy a gun, shoot, buy ammo, rent my range, buy a holster, buy this, buy that. Okay. So I didn't like the gun shows. They hurt me financially. But one day this kid comes in and he's got a handgun and he says, "Would you buy my handgun?" We were in the business of buying used guns. It's actually better. The used gun market um, is actually better for me as a shopkeeper, because when I buy a gun from a distributor, I'm paying pretty much the same price everybody else is paying. So let's say I'm paying $350 for my gun, right? Um, to sell. Then I'm going to mark it up. So I mark it up 40%. But the gun show guys, they're not paying rent. They're not paying a mortgage on the building. They don't have a full-time staff. They don't have any real expenses except the gun show. They're in there selling at 20%. So I'm looking like I'm expensive. I'm selling market, what would be market in some other place, but in Dallas was not market. It was over market. So I didn't like it. So this kid says, you want to buy this gun. If I can buy a used gun, if I can get that gun for cheaper than say I get from a distributor when I'm buying a new guns, I can mark this up more. I have a better markup. By the way, car dealers, same thing. When they take your trade in, or when they used to take your trade in, is a little different marketplace now. But in the old days, part of the car sales racket was when you came in to get your car from you as cheaply as possible. The reason being, all the Chevy dealers were buying from GM at the same cost pretty much, and there was an MSRP. Okay, uh, uh, manufacturer suggested retail price is easy to access. I can't go over MSRP. Who's going to buy it from me, right? So, but you came in and you had a Chevy out in the parking lot. You didn't know what to do with it. They said, "Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to give you X amount of dollars." That car, they always got it for less than retail. They turned around, cleaned it up, buffed it up, put it out on the used car lot, and were able to make maybe 100% on that. Boy, oh boy. Same thing with guns, right? So this kid says, "Will you buy my gun?" "Yeah, I'll buy your gun." "Well, what about it? What will you give me?" I said, "Well, I'll give you $300 for it." And he says, "Yeah, no, I'm just going to go to the gun show today and I'll get more money." I said, "So you're going to sell to somebody?" He says, "Somebody that doesn't want to do paperwork." He said it out loud to me, and I said, "So you're going to risk selling it to somebody who is illegal to buy your gun?" "Oh, no, no." He said, "I wouldn't sell it to a criminal." At which point I said as follows, I remember this well. And I looked at this young man and I said, "Okay, because they got a fucking stamp on their head that says criminal, and you'll see that, so you won't sell him a gun. Is that what you're saying?" He just looked at me and walked out and sold his gun at the gun show. So I've been anti-gun show. I've been anti-secondary market because the lack of controls there affects the retail market. What I have changed my position on, and I've evolved. I used to defend gun ownership because when people did crazy things with guns, I rightly said it was a result of mental illness. When people did some of the crazy stuff, there was two reasons for most shootings, mass or not mass, individual. One, mentally ill person has a gun, shoots a person or persons. Two, gang warfare, drug warfare. I'm using this firearm to control my market, to run people off my turf. Those are the two primary ways that guns are used, okay? So, what can we do? Well, we now know. So I defended gun ownership on the basis that you need to deal with mental health and poverty. You don't need to be dealing with me. I'm the responsible gun owner. You should know that, right? So, but what can you say when the blood is flowing in every direction, when there is carnage from both the gang wars, which we don't even talk about, by the way? We're talking about these mass shootings. You want to take a look at gun violence, you need to look at the inner city of every major city in America. Look at what the gang kids do to themselves and to those around them, Okay. Or look at the mentally ill people that are struggling in the inner city who resort to violence. Okay. Uh, uh, really, the mass shootings are just, that's cherry picking, man. That's just the low hanging fruit. You want to deal with gun violence, you need to go deeper and look at all of the violence. I have seen it. I'm aware of it. No way ignorant of how many victims of gun violence we have dying every freaking day, man. Okay, so I did evolve in that I have come to the conclusion that uh, maybe some of the proposals that I resisted might have value. I don't know. Do we limit the number of rounds you can put into a magazine? They did that in the Clinton administration, but there was a problem. People talk about gun control under Clinton didn't do anything. I don't know the numbers. Here's a reality, though. Here's a reality from somebody who was in the gun industry. They did say you could not manufacture a magazine that held over 10 rounds except for law enforcement. So a law enforcement magazine had to be stamped law enforcement only, and I could not sell that to a consumer. And a consumer was not supposed to possess it unless they were law enforcement, right? They didn't get rid of magazines and they didn't get rid of high caps. High cap magazines were grandfathered. So if you had a high cap magazine that you'd paid $15 for a year ago, you now had a magazine that was worth $60 because nobody could go into the store and buy another 15 round magazine because the limit was now 10. All they did was create a more expensive marketplace for high capacity magazines. Now that's sunset. That law sunset. Now you can buy any size magazine you want. But would it help? What if we said you can't have a high capacity magazine? Now, high capacity, really, 15 rounds hasn't been the issue. There are guys like in Tucson, the guy that shot Gabriel Gifford had a 30 round magazine in his Glock handgun. You can buy those. You can't carry them with it because it's like, but if you get out of your car, jam it in, you're ready to rock and roll. Okay. Would it help? Don't know. Am I willing to try? Yeah. I'm done arguing, man. Would restricting the sales of AR-15s help? Well, here's the dilemma. There are guns very similar to an AR-15, but they're not AR-15s. They can do everything an AR-15 can do. They can shoot as many rounds. They can shoot as fast. They can do it all. But none of them have been used in any of these mass shootings over the last couple of years. It's all been AR-15s. Now, there's partly a reason for that because people are drawn to the AR-15, whether it's me or anybody else, kind of drawn to there's a charisma to this gun, which was designed for the military, is available to the civilian population, and you can put all kinds of doodads on it. If you're somebody who likes doodadding, look at my bicycles, man. I got 2 headlights. I got 3 taillights. I got a horn. I got an air horn. I got a mirror. I'm a doodad guy. Okay, if I'm on AR-15, would I put on a telescopic sight? Probably. Would I put on a laser slash flashlight on the bottom of it so that I could automatically create light or laser with a press of the button? Probably. Would I want a stock that collapses so it's a smaller item to carry when I'm not shooting it? Probably. Would I want a flash suppressor? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Come on, baby. Let me jack it up. I'm just saying. I'm not doing it because I want to kill anybody. I'm doing it because it's just kind of it's a kick. Some people buy a Porsche. Why do you buy a Porsche? You can't drive a Porsche anywhere in the United States at its legal capacity. The Porsche is designed to comfortably exceed any speed limit that exists in the United States on any road. Okay, it holds 2 people and it burns a lot of gas. From an ecological point of view, there is no reason to own a Porsche, but people own them. It's a kick. People own AR-15, not because they want to hurt anybody. It's a kick, something to do, right? All I'm saying is it time to re-examine that kind of stuff? Yeah, it's time to look at all these things. In other words, I have reached the point where I'm saying, listen, the facts are screaming at us. The facts are yelling, do something. And my problem is right now, one of the reasons I'm feeling this kind of desperation is I don't know anything that could possibly get past our politicians. I don't know any, if you can't pass universal background checks, which I've described to you as the most simplistic freaking thing you can do. If you can't pass that, you're not going to be able to regulate, restrict, or do anything else with magazines or AR-15s or anything else. Okay? You got to start with the simple stuff, and they won't. They won't. All right, so that's two issues. One is voter suppression. The other thing is simply the humanity of the United States. It just, we seem to have we don't seem to have a soul. I mean, it seems like something happened somewhere in our lifetime, and our neighbors, people we know, have just, I don't know, the soul seems to have been sucked out of them. So that unless the dead person is their daughter or their son or their granddaughter or grandson, they don't seem to give a shit. You know what? I have traveled around the world. If you told me tomorrow that Florence, Italy had been destroyed by a tsunami, there's water there. I don't know if you're going to have a tsunami there. I would be, it would hurt because I've been to Florence. I would recognize a personal interest. If you told me that Thailand had another tsunami, see, they had a big tsunami before I'd ever been there, and like tens of thousands of people were killed or injured. And it was just like it happened over there. My humanity was missing. But if something like that happened in Thailand tomorrow, it would crush me. People are so insular, and I don't know why, and I don't think I care. But what I'm saying is, if you haven't been over to Yemen and they're committing genocide in Yemen, we seem to just treat it like here it's just a day in the park. Okay, when I pick up the news and I find out that the United States of America launched attacks on other countries, and it wasn't even in the news today because we have been waging war nonstop for 179 years or some crazy thing. You know, well, did they bomb the United States? No, I didn't bomb the United States. See, when 9/11 happened, we started waving flags and running our fists and screaming and yelling about what you did to us. But why don't we yell and scream every time a bomb is dropped? Why do I have to implore people to give a shit about people that got shot at the King supermarket? Why is that a task? Why? In the gun control issue, doesn't the blood of innocence evoke a demand to do something? How can a segment of our population, educated, I mean, Ted Cruz is educated when he did very well in college. He's a piece of crap. He's a soulless, heartless, vacuous individual, but he's not stupid. Okay? It's not just stupid people. How do you suck the soul out of a Ted Cruz, a Josh Hawley, a Gaspar in Arizona, Gosar, a Ron Johnson, Senator Ron Johnson? What power is so powerful? Is it God? Is this concept of God that comes and just suck the soul out of these people so that they'll get up in front of a microphone after all these people die and people that demand the action will go, it's a Democratic trick. They're just trying to take your guns. Well, any effort to take guns is primarily aimed at limiting violence. It's not designed to take the gun. It's designed to make the gun less harmful in the hands of the wrong people. And you do that two ways. One, you deprive the crazy people of the gun. And two, you make that gun less capable of lethality if they get a hold of it. Most people don't care unless it is in their backyard, says Kathy. Well, that's my point. My point is, until you kill a family member of theirs, they seem to be impervious to what is happening. And so here I am. It's March 25th, 2021. I own firearms. I vote. I mean, all these things are affecting me. I'm a citizen of the United States. I give a crap about people. I don't want people in Yemen to die. I don't want people in Thailand, Korea, what is it? This whole Eastern European war that's been going on, Turkey and Syria. That's not what I'm talking about, Eastern Europe. United States, I'm sick of black people being harmed in their communities or when they come out of their communities. I'm sick of the carnage. And I want to live in a country where I think, even if I'm wrong, that they give a shit. That whether you like what we're doing at the border, I want your attitude to be humane. You don't have to agree with how, you don't have to agree with the politics of it or my ideology, but I think we're all supposed to agree in a spiritually healthy country that this needs our attention, humane attention. So even if you're going to turn them back some way that makes sense. So Biden's working on a plan. I'm sorry, I'm going overtime. Biden's working on a plan. He's trying to trade vaccine with Mexico and some of the other Central American countries in order for them to secure their borders so people coming up from South America and Central America can't get to the U.S. border without passing through all these other countries and whatever security they have. Okay? So he's trying to trade them vaccine for security. Okay? What's the point of doing that? Well, there are other places people can run and hide to, but nobody wants them. Everybody keeps kicking them to the curb until they land up at our doorstep. And I'm saying, man, that's a good plan. We're probably going to have to invest in infrastructure. What do I mean? I mean, the reason people are leaving their countries, if it's true that these countries are fraught with peril for the average citizen, then we, instead of investing in the border per se, should be investing in these countries, right? So that we should be doing something targeting how we're going to ameliorate the problem at its source. We're not the source, we're the end product. Our border is the end product of people not being able to live and thrive in their environment. And they're going to come here and not thrive at the rate we're going. So all I'm asking is, how come I don't experience or feel like there's this sense of humanity across the board? What sucked the soul out of America? And I'm not suggesting any place else has more soul than us. I'm not suggesting other countries are more spiritually awakened. My fingers are crossed. I sure hope so. Man, I sure hope so. I hope there are better places. This whole waving the flag and America the Great, and we're the greatest country. Apparently, we're better than Central America because we got 15,000 young kids right now, unaccompanied minors looking for, to get out. We have families crowding the border. Why? Because they perceive the United States does offer a better way of life. We probably do from an economic point of view. But from a spiritual point of view, I don't see that. So I want out. I'm not leaving, but I want out. This is my dilemma today. I'm tired of turning on the news and seeing that kind of violence perpetrated against our own. I'm tired of listening to legislators explain that they won't fix the problem. They won't even try to fix the problem. So let's pretend that you don't like my suggestions. The Republicans have no suggestions. Just like Trump was able to spend 4 years lying about health care, and nobody who voted for him gave a shit that in 4 freaking years, he never proffered a plan for healthcare, even though he kept saying, and you can play the tapes all day long, I've got a plan. We're going to announce it tomorrow. We're going to announce it in 2 weeks. We're going to announce it in a month. 4 years later, he had never announced a single healthcare modification plan. Nothing, man. So what am I doing here? I do have a soul. I know I've got something akin to a soul. I know that I am spiritually tuned. I know that whether it's through my practice of Buddhism, whether my practice of 12-step, or just having been raised on the south side of Chicago with Kathy Corsi and Debbie and all those people that lived in Hyde Park with me, Mark McDougall and Ann, we came out of it with a sense of community, not just to our community of origin, but our global community, the environment, the climate, and the safety, security, and welfare of peoples everywhere. Why is that a hill too high to climb, man? I'm done. 6:51. I went way over time. That may have been the longest one. Anyways, that's how I'm feeling today. I'm gonna tune out. You're gonna tune out. You listen to the songs. They were, they're good songs. They're good songs. They're just songs that reflect an inner desperation that I'm feeling today. And by the way, tomorrow I may wake up and I don't feel any of this. Okay. Point of order. I am entitled to change my mind or to change my feelings at the drop of a hat. I can turn on a dime if I wish. All right. I bring my hands together before my heart. And perhaps this metta is killing me, but I can't not do metta. I close my eyes, I bow my head, and I pray or I reflect, but in one way, shape, form, another. I share loving kindness first with myself. May I be happy, healthy, free from harm, free from anger, anxiety, and fear, and desperation. And may this practice bring me peace and comfort in my life. May my mother and father and all my relatives and all my friends be happy, healthy, be free from all harm. May they also find a path that leads them to a life of greater peace and comfort, freedom from suffering. May those persons I find difficult, whatever resentments I may have, if just this one time in the day I set them aside so I can send goodwill to those persons, this is that moment. May those persons be happy, healthy, free from harm. May they, too, find their path and live their lives in peace and comfort. And may all living beings, humans and non-humans, as I always say, may they be the recipient of our collective goodwill, compassion, kindness, wherever they may be. May they be happy, healthy, free from harm. May all living beings be safe, comfortable, and in peace. Satu, Satu, Satu. Oh, sorry, I know I went off. It wasn't my most upbeat day, was it? Um, I saw your comments, Chris and Rachel, about this spiritual dilemma of our country. I don't think I need to beat that dead horse. Thank you. Thanks, Mark and Ann, Joan, Radine, Lisa, Kathy, Debbie. Thank you for being kind to me. You didn't all just turn me off right away. Some people wait a little while. I hope Elaine is still there. I hope she was able to stick around to the end. She's a dear friend, and I'm always gracious. I'm always grateful when she takes time from her schedule to listen in. And did I mention Joan and Chris and Becky and Kathy and I'm sorry, Sean. I know I said Debbie. Oh, God, I'm wrecking my brain. I'm sorry. I don't know. I better get out of here and go lay down, take a nap. Okay. Bye, guys.